What brought down the Quran's giants? A lesson for every nation. Have you ever heard about a city buried under sand? A place where walls of gold once blazed like the sun. Where the people were so gigantic that every step made the ground tremble. A civilization the Quran calls Iram, of the lofty pillars, the like of which was never created in any land. That is not a legend. It is the true story of the people of Ad, giants who believed they could build their own paradise on earth. And it was that pride which led them to an end that made all of humanity shudder. Welcome to Spiritual Echo Stories, where forgotten histories are retold with the resonance of faith and awakening. Back then, in the vast desert between Yemen and Oman, a radiant city rose like a jewel in the wasteland. The people of Ad were not only powerful, they possessed extraordinary intellect and skill. They raised pillars so tall they seemed to touch the sky, built palaces gilded with silver, gardens pouring out fragrance, and man-made rivers that wound through the city like silk. From afar, Iram looked like a dream, a place where sunlight flashing off golden walls made people shield their eyes from the glare. No one on earth could compare to them. That was also when they began to believe they no longer needed Allah. Strength made them arrogant, wealth made them blind, and luxury made them forget their origin. They considered themselves immortal. They set idols on mountaintops, praised what their hands had crafted, and scorned what came from the Creator. We are the masters of this world, they said. No one can subdue us. Their king, Shaddad, was the most arrogant of all. He did not see himself merely as a king, but as a god among humanity. He ruled with iron and blood, forcing everyone to kneel at his feet. In his heart, Shaddad believed he had reached a power equal to the Almighty. He forgot that Allah's silence is not approval, it is a test. And that test would soon become a catastrophe. The people of Ad lived in the height of extravagance. Every hill was a garden. Every valley was a lake. Every feast was a festival. They lived long lives, were strong, and assumed they would never weaken. But when pride swells too full, there is no room left for fear, and without fear, faith fades away. All that remains is empty self-importance and an illusion of power. They said to one another, "If Allah has a paradise in the heavens, then we will build our own paradise on earth." And they did. Iram, the city of gold and gemstones, became the symbol of rebellion. Yet with every gem they set into its walls, they took one more step toward their own destruction. The story of the people of Ad is not just a page of ancient history. It is a mirror held up to every age, when people lose gratitude, turn blessings into trophies of ego, and despise the one who gave them life. They all share one thing in common. They believe they are untouchable, until the first wind begins to rise. You would not believe what happened next, when a nation of giants was erased from the face of the earth in only a few days. And every trace of that false paradise turned to dust. But before we go there, make sure you subscribe to Spiritual Echo Stories, so you do not miss the mysteries and soul-stirring lessons about faith, arrogance, and the fate of humankind. While the people of Ad were lost in the splendor of Iram, far off in another lonely part of the desert, a humble man was chosen to change their destiny. His name was Hud, a descendant of Noah, who carried wisdom, loyalty, and a calm heart. Allah gave him a heavy mission, to go to those towering people, stand before the overwhelming power of Shaddad, and call them back to Tawhid, the worship owed to Allah alone. On the first day Hud entered Iram, he brought no army, no riches, and no weapons. The only things he carried were the truth and an unshakable faith. He stood in the city square, where crowds gathered beneath the desert's burning sun, and spoke, "O my people, remember the one who created you. He is the one who granted you strength and prosperity. Give thanks by worshiping him and turn away from arrogance." The people of Ad only laughed. They looked at Hud's smaller frame and then at the grand city around them. "Who are you to teach us about God?" one man shouted. "We are stronger, richer, and more magnificent than any people. If what you say is true, bring the judgment now," another mocked. Their laughter boomed among the stone pillars, rode the wind, and even the desert seemed to witness their pride. Hud did not answer with anger. He looked at them with compassion. "I seek no fame or power. I bring you only this message. Be grateful to the one who made you." He can grant you glory, and he can take it all away. But his words fell into emptiness. In the days that followed, Hud went from group to group, family to family, patiently explaining that wealth is not proof of favor. That truth is not found in gold and silver, but in humility and gratitude. Yet the people of Ad were so accustomed to the glare of material light that they no longer recognized the light of the soul. They saw Hud as a nuisance, even a threat to Shaddad's authority. The elders of Ad gathered. One said, "If we let him keep talking, the people will grow soft." Another added, "Smear him, say he is mad, cursed by the gods." Rumors spread throughout the city. They said Hud had lost his mind, that he spoke to the night, that he wanted to overthrow the king. Laughter turned into hate. Still, Hud did not leave. He believed that Allah's word cannot be lost, even if there is only one listener left. Each morning he stood again in the square, his steady voice rising above the clamor of the market and the hammering of builders. He told them about nations destroyed by pride, people mightier than they were, swept away by a single wind from Allah. He reminded them that human strength is always temporary, while the Creator's power has no limit. The more he spoke, the more they mocked. "You are only a man," they said. "How can you know the secrets of the heavens?" A few young people, moved by his message, came to him at night in secret, but they were seized and punished. Shaddad decreed, "No one is to hear him. If he continues, he will taste the desert." Hud looked at the city glittering in moonlight and understood that arrogance had blinded them. He did not hate them, he felt pity. "My Lord," he prayed, "I have delivered your message. I am only the sower. Whether the seed sprouts or is carried away by the wind is by your will." His prayer was not despair. It was surrender in faith, the trust of a messenger who had fulfilled his duty. That night in a dream, Hud saw a great wind forming at the edge of the desert, coiling like a giant serpent and carrying the breath of judgment. He woke with a heavy heart. He knew their time was nearly over. Hud kept calling, but no one listened. The walls of Iram climbed higher. The people's laughter grew louder, and their arrogance deepened. No one realized the towering pillars they raised had become the markers of wrath drawing near. Hud's story is not only a warning for the people of Ad, it is a warning for anyone who forgets the source of their blessings. When gratitude is replaced by vanity, and faith is replaced by power, a person stands one step from paradise, but it is the last step before the abyss. Shaddad, the king of the people of Ad, was not merely a powerful ruler. He was the symbol of pride inflated to the breaking point, a man who believed he could recreate Allah's paradise with human hands. When Prophet Hud warned of the Creator's judgment, Shaddad only smiled. In his heart, faith had been replaced by ambition. He no longer sought eternity of the soul, but immortality of his name. Like every egotist in history, he wanted to prove it by challenging the very one who created him. Shaddad stood atop his palace, gazing over Iram, the lofty pillars, the domes blazing in sunlight, the green gardens stretching to the horizon. Instead of thanking Allah for these favors, he declared, "I will build a paradise that no one, not even the God of Hud, can equal." That was the beginning of one of the most arrogant projects in human history, the Garden of Iram, Shaddad's false paradise. He ordered governors across the land to gather every remaining treasure, gold, silver, pearls, rubies, emeralds. Not a single gemstone in his realm was left untouched. The entire country became a colossal construction site. 100,000 builders, thousands of artisans, and tens of thousands of slaves were conscripted to erect his mad dream. Everyone bowed before Shaddad. Those who opposed him vanished into the night. He chose a place with the purest air, where gentle winds blew and the sun shone with a clear light. "This will be my paradise," he said. Then he pointed to the sky and laughed. If Allah promised Hud that believers would have rivers flowing beneath their palaces, then I will make that happen here. Canals were dug, riverbeds were lined with pearls. Rows of trees made of emerald rose with leaves of gold and blossoms of silver. When the desert wind passed through, the scent of musk and amber spread, creating a fragrance no earthly garden could match. Each morning, the sun lit the city until it gleamed like a star on the earth. People of Ad came from everywhere. Stunned by the work of the king they called a living god. They knelt and praised Shaddad. No one is greater than you. He basked in it, certain he had reached the summit of power, where even God would have to look down with envy. One day, Prophet Hud was summoned. Shaddad sat on a throne of solid gold and asked with scorn, "You say Allah's paradise has rivers flowing beneath and jeweled gardens above. Do you not? Look around you. Hud, is your paradise more beautiful than mine?" Hud looked around. Indeed, the sight was dazzling. But he said only, "You can build with gold and gemstones. But you cannot create peace. You can raise trees of precious stone. But you cannot make them live. Allah's paradise is everlasting. And you, Shaddad, are building a tomb for yourself." Those words enraged Shaddad. He ordered Hud cast out of the city, claiming he needed no instruction about power. From then on, he grew more brutal, forcing people to bow to statues of himself, carving mountain-high idols with his face. The people of Ad, already lost, sank fully into the worship of material things. They no longer remembered Hud's warning. The Garden of Iram was completed after hundreds of years of labor. When the city finally stood finished, Shaddad planned a grand ceremony to enter his paradise. A river of people stretched out behind him. Banners snapped in the wind, drums thundered. Amid a roar of praise, Shaddad rode through the immense golden gate and declared, "I am the one who built paradise on earth." He did not know that this step was also the first step into his punishment. At the very moment he crossed the gate, the sky changed color, the golden light vanished, and the desert wind turned icy. The sun was swallowed by a vast black cloud. A flash of lightning split the sky, and thunder rolled like the roar of the earth itself. People panicked and fled, but Shaddad stood, head lifted, smiling in defiance. He did not understand that what he was proud of was only a thin coat of paint hiding his sins, and that any monument built on arrogance collapses on the day it is completed. The story of Shaddad is not merely an old note in the Qur'an. It is a mirror reflecting an eternal truth. When people believe they can replace the Creator, they have already signed their own decree of destruction. Years passed, and the arrogance of the people of Ad did not fade, it deepened. Iram still blazed in the desert, but beneath the glitter was the rod of the soul. Prophet Hud kept warning them, yet his words slid off those golden walls, echoing and then dissolving. He said, "O my people, Allah has given you strength, but He can take everything back. Repent before it is too late." They mocked him and said, "If Allah is as mighty as you claim, let Him send the punishment. We are not afraid." That taunt made the heavens go silent, as if all creation waited for what was coming. From that day, rain stopped falling on the land of Ad. Rivers dwindled, trees withered, and fields burned under the sun. No one could remember the last time they saw a drop of water. At first, they thought it was a passing test. But month after month, year after year, the sky stayed dry. Hud saw it and knew that wrath had begun. He pleaded, "My Lord, I have delivered your words. Grant them one last chance." In the silence, he understood that the chance had passed. Desperate, the people of Ad sent delegations to mountaintops to pray for rain. They knelt before stone idols, crying and beating drums. The lifeless rock gave no answer. Then one day, at the edge of the desert, a vast black cloud appeared. When they saw it, they rejoiced and shouted, "Rain! At last the gods have heard us." They ran out of the city, hands lifted to the sky. But Prophet Hud stood still. He watched the cloud coil upon itself and heard in the wind a hiss beyond imagination. He whispered, "No, that is not rain. That is what you asked for in your foolishness." The first gust swept through Iram like a breath, but it carried the chill of judgment. The wind rose, tearing ancient trees from the earth that 10 men together could not budge. The world turned a sullen gray. The wind screamed like 1,000 souls. Houses were lifted, palaces crumbled. The people of Ad, who once called themselves giants, were tossed like dry grass in the storm of the Creator. Each lash of wind sounded like a verdict. "You challenged me, now receive what you sought." The storm raged for 7 nights and 8 days, a span the Quran calls the days of destruction. No one escaped. They hid underground, in caves, in strong bunkers. But Allah's wind is not stopped by walls or stone. It slipped through every crack, sweeping away everything in its path. Mighty bodies were flung into the air and smashed to the ground like brittle branches. Cries and wails tangled with the wind and then were gone. When the final dawn came, the desert was terrifyingly still. There was no sign of Iram, no glint of gold or silver, only sand covering everything. Prophet Hud and the few who believed with him stood on a hill, looking down at what had once been humanity's pride. The wind had ceased, but a coldness lingered in the air, a warning from Allah that no power stands forever before him. Hud spoke through tears. "O my people, I told you, but you did not listen. You prayed for rain, and this is the rain you wanted." He took no joy in their destruction, only the sorrow of a prophet who watched his people choose the wrong path. On that day, Allah turned glorious Iram into a sea of sand. Travelers who later crossed the desert could not believe a city had ever stood there. They called it the City of Shadows, because beneath the dunes, the colossal pillars still cast faint shapes when the moon rose. People said that if you lost your way there at night, you could hear the wind howling like voices crying for help, the lingering echoes of a nation that challenged the Creator. That storm is not just a moment in history, it is a lesson for every generation. Allah's punishment needs neither fire nor earthquakes. Only a single wind is enough to wipe out a civilization. The most frightening thing is not the wind itself, but the moment people stop believing it could ever come. After the storm, the land of the people of Ad was nothing but endless sand. No golden glow of palaces, no laughter from those who called themselves immortal. Iram, the city once hailed as paradise for humankind, was now a graveyard of illusions. Yet Allah did not allow that story to be buried forever. He willed that humanity, each time it lifted its eyes to the sky, would remember that no power surpasses the justice of the Creator. Hundreds of years later, among the mountain ranges of the Arabian desert, Prophet Ibrahim was led by Jibril to a place where sunlight seemed never to reach. Inside this mountain, the angel said, lies the remains of one of the greatest enemies of Allah. Go in, and you will see what time cannot hide. Ibrahim stepped into the cave, each footfall echoing like a tap on the earth's memory. He stopped before a dust-covered stone slab, where a body lay wrapped in silk. It was the corpse of Shaddad, the arrogant king who had defied God. On the tomb, words were carved in a shaky hand, as if cut by Shaddad himself before he died. I am Shaddad, who possessed endless gold and silver and was praised as a god. I believed I could build paradise with my own strength, but the wind of the Creator destroyed me and my entire kingdom. Whoever reads this, know that I once had everything and lost everything because I forgot that all I owned came from him. Ibrahim was stunned. He placed his hand on the cold stone and felt the last breath of a soul that had challenged the heavens. Then he knelt and whispered, O Allah, this is proof that you are the most just. You left the mark of the arrogant so we would learn humility. He left the cave carrying that story for future generations, so it would become a mirror for every dynasty to come. The story of the Ad and Shaddad is not a dry slice of history. It is a mirror of human nature in every era. Pride does not die with time, it only changes shape. When people today insist that science can explain everything, that money can buy anything, that power can replace justice, they are walking the same road the people of Ad once walked. The only difference is that they have not noticed the wind forming on the horizon. This story also reminds us that Allah's blessings are not trophies to show off, but responsibilities to fulfill our purpose. The people of Ad were given strength, intellect, and prosperity. Instead of offering thanks, they used those gifts to challenge the one who gave them. And so the timeless law stands. When people forget the source of their blessings, those blessings become instruments of ruin. Scholars of Islam tell us that even now, beneath the deep sands of the Rub al-Khali desert, there remain traces of Iram, pillars half buried, like the fingers of a giant reaching through the dunes for salvation. But there is no salvation for those who die in arrogance. The Qur'an reminds us, have you not considered how your Lord dealt with Ad, Iram of the lofty pillars, the like of which was never created in any land? Every word is a wake-up call, that any empire built on pride will collapse under its own weight. If you listen closely, the story is still being whispered in the desert wind, not a wind of doom, but a wind of reminder. It says, Be humble before the one who gave you breath. Be grateful before it is too late. No one knows. Perhaps one day, while humanity is absorbed in its projects, its technology, and its power, Allah will send another wind, not to destroy, but to awaken. And when you hear the wind whistle through a mountain pass, remember Iram and Shaddad, those who thought themselves immortal and are now only dust. Every false paradise vanishes in the end, and true paradise belongs only to hearts that bow in faith. Join the Spiritual Echo Stories community to explore more ancient tales that carry timeless messages about faith, morality, and spiritual awakening. Each story is an echo from the past, reminding us that light arrives when people bow before the Almighty. And if these words have reached your heart, subscribe to Spiritual Echo Stories to support our work in bringing more meaningful content, helping the light of faith travel even farther.